Uganda.
Defend.
Kenya rises to power on the export of rhinoceroses.
Rhinoceros. Rhinoceros.
Kenya rises to power on the export of rhinoceroses. Kenya rises to power on the export of rhinoceroses. A Central African power bloc is formed, colonizing North Africa and Europe. When war
Colonize. Colonize.
colonizing North Africa and Europe. A Central African power bloc is formed, colonizing North Africa and Europe. When war breaks out, no one can afford the luxury of a rhino.
Rhino. Rhino.
When war breaks out, no one can afford the luxury of a rhino. On what does Scott Joplin play the maple leaf rag?
Tuned bayonets.
Bayonet. Bayonet.
Tuned bayonets.
It's a game we invented. It's called Counterfactuals.
We postulate an alternate world that differs from ours in one key.
Postulate. Postulate.
We postulate an alternate world that differs from ours in one key.
What?
In a world ruled by a giant beaver, mankind builds many dams to please the beaver overlord.
Overlord. Overlord.
Mankind builds many dams to please the beaver overlord. The low-lying city of Copenhagen is flooded. Thousands die. Devastated, the Danes never invent their namesake pastry.
Namesake. Namesake.
Devastated, the Danes never invent their namesake pastry. Is he always like this when he loses?
Oh, yes, you should have been here for the great Jenga tantrum of 2008.
Tantrum. Tantrum.
You should have been here for the great Jenga tantrum of 2008.
Did you guys see the paper in the American Physics Journal on supersolids? It's pretty interesting. This guy's working from a hypothesis.
But spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Spoiler. Spoiler.
But spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
A potty? What are you, 5?
It's a potty. What do you call it?
Toilet.
That's a little vulgar for the dinner table, don't you think?
Vulgar. Vulgar.
It's a little vulgar for the dinner table, don't you think? It's a little vulgar for the dinner table, don't you think?
Oh, and potty is okay?
Potty's innocent. Potty's adorable.
Adorable. Adorable.
Potty's innocent. Potty's adorable. Potty's innocent. Potty's adorable.
What do you do in the potty? Wee-wee?
We.
What do you do in the potty? Wee-wee?
Hey, look, it's Shamey.
Shamey?
A juvenile amalgamation of our names.
Amalgamation. Amalgamation.
Juvenile amalgamation of our names.
I got it, but what I was going for was, how's your life?
Like everybody else's, subject to entropy, decay, and eventual death.
Entropy. Entropy.
Subject to entropy, decay, and eventual death. Why is she not taking our order?
I should have warned you, one has to navigate a labyrinth of social nonsense before one...
Labyrinth. Labyrinth.
One has to navigate a labyrinth of social nonsense before one... She's not my girlfriend. She's a girl, and she's my friend, but there's no touching or unsanitary exchange of saliva.
Unsanitary. Unsanitary.
There's no touching or unsanitary exchange of saliva. To that I say, buck up.
Okay, let me just get right to it. Amy is judgmental, sanctimonious, and frankly...
Sanctimonious. Sanctimonious.
Amy is judgmental, sanctimonious, and frankly... Amy is judgmental, sanctimonious, and frankly, just obnoxious.
Obnoxious. Obnoxious.
Just obnoxious.
I suffered in silence as your female companion filled our apartment with her off-key country music caterwauling.
Caterwaul. Caterwaul.
Filled our apartment with her off-key country music caterwauling. Filled our apartment with her off-key country music caterwauling. The unappetizing spectacle of her grinding a pumice stone against her...
Pumice. Pumice.
The unappetizing spectacle of her grinding a pumice stone against her... The unappetizing spectacle of her grinding a pumice stone against her calloused feet in our living room.
Callous. Callous.
Against her calloused feet in our living room. The unappetizing spectacle of her grinding a pumice stone against her calloused feet in our living room. And night after night of uninformative TV.
Uninformative. Uninformative.
And night after night of uninformative TV.
Wow, that is better.
And someday when you have varicose veins, I'll show.
Varicose. Varicose.
And someday when you have varicose veins, I'll show. In the latest issue of Bombay Badonkadonks.
I was homesick.
Homesick. Homesick.
I was homesick.
It's very impressive for theoretical work.
Do I detect a hint of condescension?
I'm
Condescension. Condescension.
Do I detect a hint of condescension?
Absolutely not. My colleagues and I are mapping the neurological substrates that subserve global...
Substrate. Substrate.
The neurological substrates that subserve global...
I'm sorry, I'm still trying to work on the defecating Clark Maxwell.
Defecate. Defecate.
To work on the defecating Clark Maxwell.
I will be able to map and reproduce your thought processes in deriving a grand unified theory, and therefore subsume your conclusions under my paradigm.
That
Subsume. Subsume.
And therefore subsume your conclusions under my paradigm.
that
In deriving a grand unified theory, and therefore subsume your conclusions under my paradigm.
that's the rankest psychologism. It was
Ism. Ism.
that's the rankest psychologism. That's the rankest psychologism. It was conclusively revealed as hogwash by
Conclusively. Conclusively.
It was conclusively revealed as hogwash by Gottlieb Frege in the 1890s.
We appear to have reached an impasse.
Impasse. Impasse.
We appear to have reached an impasse.
Women, huh? And live with them can't successfully refute their hypotheses.
Refute. Refute.
Can't successfully refute their hypotheses.
There were no emotional bonds, the severing of which would cause me any discomfort. The relationship simply outlived its utility, and
Outlive. Outlive.
the relationship simply outlived its utility, and
When I broke up with Penny, I got back into my cello. I built a bunch of model rockets. I got those weightlifting gloves and that 5-pound dumbbell.
Dumbbell. Dumbbell.
I got those weightlifting gloves and that 5-pound dumbbell.
He said that you were pining for a young lady.
oh, that's preposterous. I'm not.
Preposterous. Preposterous.
Oh, that's preposterous. I'm not. Oh, that's preposterous. I'm not pining over anyone.
Oh, lamb chop. We can quibble what to call it, but I think...
Quibble. Quibble.
Oh, lamb chop. We can quibble what to call it, but I think...
Amy, after consideration, I believe we may have acted rashly.
rashly, rashly,
I believe we may have acted rashly. We deal with the fact that my mother does not approve of you?
I do. I find being cast in the role of bad girl oddly titillating.
titillate, titillate,
Cast in the role of bad girl oddly titillating.
Would you like to see my cats?
I would. I love cats. They're the epitome of indifference.
epitome, epitome,
They're the epitome of indifference.
That's all they want to do. If I hadn't told my brother Stumpy not to clear out the wood chipper by hand, we'd still
chipper, chipper,
not to clear out the wood chipper by hand, we'd still